Let's see.
I was going to wait for more people to come up and might as well get started. Alright, so obviously today's on how to maximise your performance. Ken stitched me up for this, so I wasn't too sure what to talk about when you asked me to do this, so I just walked around the gym for a couple of weeks and thought about it, and I just thought, you know, there's so many things you can do to maximise your performance, but there's probably one thing I see in most people, 90%, and probably all of you here have that issue, which we'll get to, but I know I've trained a couple of you in the room and I've taught you on this already, so it might re-jog your memory, might give you a few more ideas, and you might learn a bit more. But the question is what I'm going to teach. Sorry, what I'm going to teach today is about core and the lumbo-pelvic region. Your lumbo-pelvic region is your lower back, and your pelvis, your hip region. Okay. Now, there's your core. It's related to everything. Your core's weak. It can affect your hand movements, your shoulder movements. So, question is, what is core? Does anyone know?
Here, my section here.
Yeah, good.
So from here down.
Yeah,
here.
Good, really good. Yeah. So you might hear your personal trainer say to you, "Oh, tighten your core." You might think, "What's that?" Like when I first started training, when I was 18, the personal trainer said to me, "Tighten your core." I thought, "What's my core? How do you tighten your core?" You know. So there's a lot of people out there. You just got to. So this will give you an education how to tighten your core, but also strengthen your lumbo-pelvic region, how it affects maximising your performance. So we'll go to the next one. So I'm going to talk a lot about core and what it is. So you've got two types of cores. So you've got your outer motor unit, you've got your inner motor unit. So your outer motor unit is like all your big muscles. So you've got your latissimus dorsi, which is a big muscle that runs down the back here. You've got your six-pack, your external obliques, you've got your big muscle, your rectus spinae runs from hips right up to the top of your head, and your glute max. Now, which one's the most important out there? Or which ones would you see more issues with?
This bit.
Sorry? Close. You'll know, Ruth.
Your glutes.
Your glutes, exactly right. So, a lot of people have issues with with their glutes. Now, rectus abdominis. Now, is that your core? What do people normally do when you say train your core? What muscle you're training? Rectus abdominis, yeah? So, I would never give someone sit-ups. Why? Because it's not really a functional exercise. If you want a six-pack, you may as well just go and lose weight. You've always got that six-pack under there. So what I'm trying to say is, when you really want to strengthen your core, you really want to strengthen your inner motor unit. But probably the most important on there is your gluteus maximus, which I'll talk about in a second. But your inner motor unit, so you've got your transverse abdominis, which I'll show you pictures where they are, multifidus, pelvic floor, and your diaphragm. Alright, so we'll go to the next one. So so the gluteus maximus, so it is the largest muscle in the body, but a lot of people in the gym don't use it and switches off. So you get a lot of issues with your lower back, your hips, pelvis, knees, even your shoulders as well if you've got no glute max. Now with your glute max, the actions it does is you've got your external rotation and pushing backwards like that, so you've got hip extension. You might see a lot of people have the butt wink. So you know when people squat down, I'll get out here. So when people squat down, their hips roll like that. Anyone seen that? They squat down and then it rolls. It's hard to do. But I'll show you later on what I mean. So what butt wink is it rotates backwards, and it's a good indication if someone can do it above, does get the butt wink above 90 degrees, so 90 degrees is here, so they get it above this point here, they've got core glute max activation. Now, when you don't activate your glute max, what you're going to do is you're going to start activating other muscles, such as your rectus spinae, your obliques. You've also got other muscles in your back. You're going to start using. Now, when you start using those muscles, you start to lose your form. Okay, so when you start to lose your form, your movement patterns become really, really poor, and it's going to take more energy to do that movement pattern. But I don't know your goals like lose weight, tone up, put on muscle, but it might sound good. It's going to take more energy to do that movement pattern. But in the long run, it's not so good, because if you're doing a movement where you're not activating the right muscles, you're going to fatigue a lot faster. So you can't lift as much. You can't do anything for as long. But also the recovery process. So if you do the right way, you're going to get the correct recovery. So I know you might burn like 212 calories in like a session or something like that, but it's more the recovery process afterwards. That 48 hours, your metabolic, your system is burning calories to recover from that, to build muscle. So you think about it, if you have good MAC activation, you're using the correct muscles. Those other muscles that were being used, but now they're being used for the right thing, they're all working together. You'll be able to lift more, burn more calories in a session, and you'll be able to have the correct recovery to lift more weights, more muscle you have, more weights you lift, the more muscle you have, the stronger you are. Keeps rolling over. Does that make sense? Yes? Cool. Right. Now this is your inner motor unit, so your transverse abdominis. So, I'll show you. So it's a big sheet that runs around the outside. So all it does is stabilises the lumbopelvic region, so your hips lower back. Right. Quite common, no one has this activated whatsoever. So what's going to switch on? Your rectus abdominis. Okay? Now a lot of people say to me, why don't you give me sit-ups? Like, I go, well, we don't need them. Like, why? You want to strengthen that lumbopelvic region. And you want to strengthen your TA because it's going to affect your squats, your lunges, the way you move, your movement patterns. It's going to be more efficient. In the end, you're going to achieve better goals. Multifidus. You've probably never heard of this one before, but it's a pretty blurry picture, sorry. Runs between the two vertebrae, so it runs all the way up the spine. All it does is when you do a rotation, bend forward or bend back, even move your arms, it contracts to stabilise the spine. These are not so common, but if people have this issue, they get really sore lower back, they're rectus spinae. So what I'll get you to do is I'll give you an example of activating it. I'll get your thumb on one side, so one side of your back, and finger on the other side of your spine. Okay, and with your other hand, I want you to lift your arm up. Now, did you feel it contract? Yeah, so that's your multifidus contracting, stabilising your spine in any plane of motion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool, and then we've got our pelvic floor. So our pelvic floor, when contracted, so you've got a lot of issues with pregnancy, but normally it holds our organs back into place, so our bladder and whatnot. But with that, it increases lumbopelvic stability and it works with the transverse abdominis and multifidus as well, and then onto the diaphragm. So the diaphragm, like it is part of our core. Now I'll get a lot of people and I'll go, contract your transverse abdominis, but they won't be able to contract this, right? Because they've never taught themselves how to breathe with their diaphragm. What muscle do they use? The outer motor unit. And what's it used for? Outer motor unit used for? It's like more flexion, sideways movements. It's not stabilisation and breathing. So your diaphragm is used for breathing itself, and it is part of the core. So you've got to teach the body how to, the brain, the pathways, how to use your core and breathe at the same time. So we're going to do this at the end, so it makes more sense. Alright, so overall, you're going to get lumbopelvic stability. And what happens if you have poor lumbopelvic stability? I'm going to repeat myself here, so it makes sense. So if you have poor lumbopelvic stability, what are you going to do? What's going to happen to other muscles? What are they going to do? Fatigue, yeah. So we're going to get some muscles are going to turn on that shouldn't be. They're going to get angry, you're going to get lower back pain, you get knee pain, hip pain, shoulder pain. But other than that, what's going to happen to your movement patterns if the correct muscles aren't working? Or if the incorrect muscles are working? Sorry?
You're going to slouch?
Yeah, you're going to get incorrect movement patterns. And what happens if you get incorrect movement patterns? Injury, and what else?
Pain.
You get pain. One more thing, it's all about maximising performance. Maximising performance. So if you can't lift, if those muscles you're doing the wrong job, you're not using the right ones, you're not going to lift as much. All right. The more you lift, the stronger you get, the more calories you burn, the more muscle you put on, the more calories you burn. Right. So can you see how it's related to maximising your performance? Yes. Right. So this is probably one key thing. I absolutely love talking about this because a lot of people just go and do their sit-ups, and I hate sit-ups. Right. The only time I give someone sit-ups is if they've got back issues. But what happens if if let's say your transverse abdominis and your pelvic floor is not turned on, it's going to all be coming through your rectus abdominis and your lower back. And then if your lower back is overactivated, it's going to switch off your glutes. Now what does it come back to? If your glutes are switched off, you can't lift as much, you don't get the correct form, you have an incorrect movement pattern. Does that make sense, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So how do we look at it? How do I know if someone isn't activating their core? How do I know if someone isn't using a glute? So I'm going to get Ruth up here. I'm going to show you. So this is called an overhead squat test. So it's a functional movement screening test that I do on most people. So a bit of history with Ruth. What, I gave you a program 12 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So Ruth had really poor core, let's say, TA, pelvic floor, no glute activation, and now she's going really well. What are you squatting now? 55? With correct form?
Yeah, 45.
45, yeah.
Today.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what we're going to look at is, I'll get you to come out here. Does everyone just want to come up here and I'll show you a few things about the form of the overhead squat test. So what you want them to do, see how this lady here is feet shoulder width apart. So you can go and do this at home if you really want to. So feet shoulder width apart. You don't want any wide because it opens up the kinetic chain. Those tight muscles you won't show up on the test. So move closer. Arms above the head. Okay. And you're going to get them to squat. And you're going to watch them. Alright, so first time you're going to watch them from the side, is going to watch how far forward they lean. Okay, how far forward someone leans. Now, Ruth's pretty good, but if they're leaning, just lean forward a little bit more for me. Okay, it can indicate tight hip flexors, which can be associated with no glute activation. But then, I'll get you to go again. That's a forward lean. So I'm just teaching you a little basics of it. So you also look at the angle, so the angle of her legs. So they should be in line with her upper body. Can anyone tell me if they are? How far forward are the knees coming? They shouldn't really come too far forward. Right? What's happening? Is you coming forward yet? You have a look, come around.
They would be today. I'll tell people that. They would be.
Yeah. Alright, so what this means is there's no glute activation. Okay? All it's coming through all the quads. Now in terms of maximising performance, if you're putting all that pressure through your quads, no glutes, what's going to happen? It comes back to what I was saying before. Can't lift as much.
So what part of her leg are you saying shouldn't be work?
Your knees shouldn't come past this point. So literally they should stay here and she should sit back.
And ideally, the way to
Ideally like this.
The way to think about it is when I first started, you actually have to think about not putting your knees past the fronts of your toes. Because when I first started doing it, I would go bend like that, but it's actually really hard for me to do now.
Past the front?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should never come forward. And the reason they should never come forward as well, because it puts a lot of load on your knees. Okay, what's called anterior shear forces. So it puts it. Yeah, because it's going to activate your glutes.
And that's how you should be.
Yeah, that's how you should be
Also,
squatting.
like if you're squatting to get a ball, you should be going.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, exactly.
And it'll put the weight in the back of your feet.
Yeah.
At the same time.
So you should put the weight through your heels.
Good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
Because you naturally, when you walk,
So
and
that's why
everything,
our
you put
back.
weight on the front.
So is that why our back sometimes ends up
Yeah.
hurting?
Yeah. Like I was saying, your glutes not activating, and then what other muscles are going to take over?
Here.
Yeah.
That's why.
My problem.
Yeah. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You got it?
or even this. The thrusters.
Yeah, it's the same for thrusters.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Any movement, even with a lunge, your knees shouldn't come past your shoelaces. It's just, if anyone comes down like this and goes like that straight away, I'm like, no, let's not do that exercise. I need that glute activation first.
Ah,
Depending on the individual, I'll give them different exercises. Okay?
well, that's harder.
It is hard, isn't it?
Yeah. I must have that wrinkle thing you were saying.
Alright, so I'll get everyone to come to the front for me.
Oh.
We'll show you a common thing. So you want you to face it.
I don't want me to say
Yeah. Right, does everyone want to just come and have a look at the front of the roof for me? Above and down.
Yeah, that's fine. That makes sense.
Oh, I can try. It's very hard to do.
I'll do a squat.
A wrong one or a right one?
A right one.
A right
A wrong one, sorry.
A wrong one.
Arms up, one, down.
It's really hard to do.
There we go.
You look like you're unbalanced.
Yeah,
You're gonna
done.
fall.
Yeah.
So what you will see in a lot of people, and this was related to the knee pain, is the knee coming. Can you just do that again? See how the knees come in. So when she squats down, the knees start to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the indication of what's called glute med. Now your glute med sits on the outside, and it comes from here. Pretend there's a cable attached here and a cable attached here. And what it does, it pulls it this way. Okay? So that cable's pulling it that way. But due to it being weak, it can't hold it in that position. So what do the knees do? They bow in. Okay? So once again, there's specific exercises for that to train it. Next thing, I'll get you facing that way. Arms above the head. The biggest thing I noticed, which needs to work on this actually, is what's wrong with her hands? Where should her hands be? What now? Proper one. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, you do it right now. So what can happen? That's really good. So her hands dropping forward can be an indication of weak rhomboids, lower traps, but also indication of a tight chest as well. Now, if you have a weak lower trap, upper trap, rhomboid, and you're doing all upper trap, you're going to start getting shoulder issues. As soon as you start getting shoulder issues, you're not going to lift as much, and then it's going to be in that process again.
So like, let's say we're lifting, a pressure bar.
Yeah.
If we don't go all the way up, then we go.
Okay, get trusted.
Yeah, go get one.
I'll just get a light.
So how do we know, like,
I think it's more, see Thomas, I think it's more personal trainer looking at you and seeing your movement pattern itself,
okay.
assessing you. But yeah, this is not any, I don't think many personal trainers do. I only know this because of university. So. But what's interesting is your lower trap sits just here, okay? So it's on the bottom of your shoulder blade. Now if that's weak, it affects the arch in your foot. So if that's weak, your arch is going to drop in. Right, so it's all to do with the kinetic change. So that's why I do the change. So I'll do get you a thrust for you. That's fine, I'm happy with that. Just pushing through the heels, just sitting back, just sit back a little bit more.
The difference is people go
Out in front.
out the front like that.
Ah, it should be from the top,
Yeah. So it should just be up.
not,
Yeah.
I see, I got it.
Like that.
So it should be right in the end. Because if you're coming back, it's just an indication if you've got tight. You're probably tight down here somewhere or a muscle's not activating.
I see, no, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I was saying was lower trap is connected to the arch of your foot. Yeah? Why is something up here connected to the arch of your foot? It's all to do with the kinetic change. So your movement pattern. So you've really got to look at ways to train your whole body correctly to get the correct movement pattern to maximise your performance. Because if you get that correct movement pattern, you're going to lift more. I can tell you that, you've got Ruth here. She was going to do a squat like for 10 kilos, and do properly now. So that's like the general overlay for like an overhead squat. But you can even just do it in the mirror, looking at yourself doing a squat. You can even just look at yourself in the mirror and do a squat and see if there's any lateral shifts to the left or right. Okay? I forgot to say about your glute max activation. With that butt wink I was talking about before, it all comes down to your glute activation. So with someone that has really poor glute activation, so you've got the femur in the socket. This is the front of their body, that's the back of their body. And when you've got poor glute activation, it's what's called an anterior translation. So it slides forward a little bit, and it doesn't get that range of motion, so then the pelvis has to rotate to get a little lower. But if you've got that glute activation, it pulls it back into the correct position, and then you get that that greater range of motion because it's sucking it back into the correct position. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. Yeah. Cool. Do you want to give it a go at trying to activate your TA in your pelvic floor?
Yeah.
Or lying down?
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah.
Give you a little go. Grab some mats. Go for it. Jumping out here.
No, he's number, he's always correct.
So this is like the beginning of the beginning exercises. Sorry, I don't blame you if you don't want to do it. So this is something very basic, okay, for your T activation, your pelvic floor and diaphragm, but it's going to give you a baseline where to start, how to contract it properly. I'm going to tell you, if you do this every day for a week, you can progress. Like, I got one lady who said she was coming, but she didn't come. She was doing this, and then 2 weeks later, she was on a really advanced core training, because it responds really well. So, like I said at the start, a lot of people activate their rectus abdominis. If you activate your rectus abdominis, it's going to turn off your transverse abdominis. Does that make sense? So what I want you to do is find those bony parts at the front of your hips for me. You probably could just do it sitting, if you're more comfortable with that. Bony parts on your hip, and then come in 2 fingers or an inch, and then down an inch. Okay? Now what I want you to do, what a lot of people say is suck your belly button in down your stomach. Now that's incorrect because it contracts your rectus abdominis. So what I want is remove your right hand and put it over your top of your bottom of your ribs, sorry. Alright, that hand that's over your ribs shouldn't contract. It's your left hand that should contract. And how we contract our transverse abdominis is our lower portion of our stomach sucked down to the spine.
So you're saying which part should go up?
Up there. So you should be, usually try and use your fingers because it's a bit more sensitive with your fingers. Can everyone feel that or not? So your lower portion of your spine, lower portion of your stomach down to your spine. You feel that? Yeah. Can you, yeah? Kind of? Yeah.
I don't feel
How you going
anything
with that?
before this. It's not as great as I'd like.
Yeah, suck it right down, but you shouldn't be contracting at the top here. Now, while contracting that, if you don't, I can come down, I can touch and feel if you really want me to. And we can see how we go from there. Alright, now what I want you to do is contract that, but also breathe at the same time. Deep breaths. How you going with that? Yeah? Alright, next thing we do. So that's your transverse abdominis and your diaphragm contracting. Right, with your diaphragm, sorry, I should have told you to breathe through your ribs. Right, the next part is pretend you're going to the toilet. So you're contracting the TA, you're breathing, and then pretend you're going to the toilet and you have to stop midway. That's your pelvic floor. You might have to concentrate because it's actually... There we go. Everyone's understanding that? Yeah? Yes? Cool. Alright, how do we progress that? So that's the basics of basics. So how do we progress it? One way you can do it is slightly contracting. Let's try this. Contracting, breathing, pelvic floor. Let's go down again. And your feet are up. And what I want you to do is slightly move your left knee out and slowly bring it back in. Yeah. So you can either slide it along the floor, would be easier, or in the air is a lot harder.
And just, you said breathe?
Yeah, I want you to breathe as well. While contracting your TA, breathing, pelvic floor, and moving your leg. How's that feel? What are you laughing about?
Not as easy as it sounds.
No. And what a lot of people go, like I'll test and they go, yeah, I'm contracting so I can have a feel. Yeah, yeah. No, you're not. That's the wrong muscle. So just be aware, it's 1 inch in, 1 inch down, and then that's where you'll find it. You'll feel it contract. Everyone's got that? You got that, yeah?
I'm not sure.
I'll try. If anyone wants to come up to me afterwards and I'll check for them. I can do that. Alright, next one. How do we have to be able to glutes? We're probably all, if you've trained with me, you've definitely done this exercise. It's my favourite one. Alright, so if someone doesn't, here's a little quiz question for you. If someone can't contract that one up there, what would you give them? What's the regression? I might have done it with one of you.
Me? Yeah, you do.
So, alright, so I'll get a really good one. So lying on your back, same position. I want you to let your legs go out. Yeah, feet together. And now push your bum in the air. Make sense? Yeah. Alright, let's go to the normal glute bridge. Push through your heels. Squeeze your bum. Bring your feet so much closer because that's just all hamstrings. So what a lot of issue is, this is a great way to test your glute activation. Does it make sense? Yeah. Is you might get someone just to sincerely feel your bum, hamstrings and lower back, and what you should have is a recruitment pattern, your firing pattern should be glutes, hamstrings, back. For a lot of people, if you don't activate their glutes, it will be lower back, hamstrings and no glute. Well, you get a lot of people who activate their right side but not their left. And you see that in a squat actually. Alright, come back down. Let's do single leg. Good. So to progress from a double leg to a single leg, I'll get you to come down. We're going to push up on both legs. Push up on both legs, 3 heels. Lift one leg off the ground and then come back down. Back down. Down. And then up again. One leg out, and then we're going to come down on one leg. So just down on one leg, yeah. And then you'd find yourself getting stronger from that, then you just do your single leg. Right, we're going to hop up now. We're going to do how to do a squat properly. The reason I'm teaching you all this is probably like I said at the start, this is the number one thing I noticed around the gym is just people got the poor lumbo-pelvic stability, they're really cheating themselves, not getting the greatest performance out of their body with that. Alright, find some space, I'm going to do a squat. Okay? You can see. Alright, let's do a squat, sitting back as far as you can. So what I get people to do is put your weight through your heels, and I want you to sit back. I want you to sit back as far as you can. Yeah, really good, perfect. And that's how you should do a squat. Good, good, good. Right, good. If you're having issues with that, even better, what you can do is place a seat behind. That's what I always do. Get a seat behind someone, I'll get them to sit down on it. So, down and then back up. So they get that movement pattern happening. Okay? Do you have any other questions? No? Yeah, okay. Cool. You don't have any questions? No? Cool. Alright, thanks for coming. Thanks.